Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe my channel. Enjoy the listening. The battle was hopeless until Earth unleashed its secret weapon. The crimson sky above Bastion Point burned with the funeral pyres of fallen starships. Debris rained through the atmosphere, leaving smoky trails like tears across the heavens. Captain Nadia Reeves watched from the cracked window of the command bunker, her weathered face illuminated by emergency lighting that bathed everything in blood-red hues. "Status report," she demanded, voice steady despite the chaos. Lieutenant Pascal limped toward her, clutching a datapad with trembling hands. "Orbital defense grid is completely offline. Colonies in sectors 4 through 7 have gone dark. Fleet Command's last transmission was—" He swallowed hard, 72 minutes ago. Nadia closed her eyes briefly. 72 minutes in military time might as well be forever. No backup coming, no extraction. Just her, what remained of the 103rd Colonial Defense Battalion and the advancing Voratian warfront. "How many operational units?" she asked. 43 soldiers combat-ready, 6 more in medical who can still hold a weapon, ammunition reserves at 28%. Pascal hesitated. And 3 functional combat mechs, though fuel cells are critically low. Outside, the thunder of distant explosions punctuated his words. The Voratians were methodically destroying everything that remained of humanity's presence on this world, a colony that had taken decades to establish, reduced to ashes in mere days. Sergeant Davy Ortega burst through the bunker doors, his exo-armor scorched and smoking in places. "They've breached the outer perimeter, infantry units moving in supported by those damn crawler tanks." He spat blood onto the concrete floor. "Different from the others, these ones aren't taking prisoners." Nadia moved to the tactical display. The holographic map showed the Voratian forces as a tide of red markers flowing around their position. Not attacking head-on, surrounding them, taking their time. "They're playing with us," she muttered. "They know we're trapped." The Voratians had appeared in Earth's solar system without warning 8 months ago. First contact had been brief, a single transmission in perfectly fluent English. "Your resources are now ours. Resistance extends suffering." Then the slaughter began. Earth's military forces, impressive by human standards, discovered quickly how outmatched they were. Voratian armor was impervious to standard projectiles. Their energy weapons cut through reinforced bulkheads like paper. Their tactics were flawless, their discipline absolute. Bastion Point was supposed to be safe, a heavily fortified colony on the outskirts of human space. Now it was just another entry on the growing list of humanity's lost outposts. "We should evacuate the civilians," Lieutenant Pascal suggested, eyes darting nervously toward the bunker's rear section where 30-odd colonists huddled in fear. Nadia's jaw tightened. "With what ships, Lieutenant? The last transport was shot down yesterday." "Then what's the plan, Captain?" Sergeant Ortega asked, his voice lowered so only she could hear. "We've got maybe 6 hours before they break through our final defenses." Nadia studied the map again. The Voratians had formed a perfect circle around their position. Methodical, patient, confident. "We make them bleed for every inch," she finally said. "Set charges along the southern approach. Position our snipers on the water tower and communication spire. The rest of us form 3 defensive lines falling back in sequence." Pascal looked up from his datapad. "That's not a plan for victory, Captain." "No," she agreed, checking the charge on her pulse rifle. "It's a plan for making them remember us." As her officers dispersed to relay orders, Nadia allowed herself a moment alone with the tactical display. The Voratian forces were overwhelming, at least 500 ground troops supported by their fearsome crawler tanks and aerial support, against her 49 soldiers with dwindling supplies. The math was simple: they wouldn't survive the night. A message alert flashed on her wrist communicator. "Secure channel, military encryption." Nadia's heart skipped as she activated it, hopping against hope for news of reinforcements. Instead, a text-only message scrolled across her screen. "Hold position 12 hours. FENRIS inbound. Authorization Gamma 7. Nadia frowned. Fenris. No such unit existed in Earth's military registry, and Gamma 7 was a clearance level she'd never heard of despite her rank. Before she could contemplate further, the bunker shook violently. Dust and concrete fragments rained from the ceiling. The first Voratian bombardment had begun. "All units battle stations," she shouted, strapping on her combat helmet. Defensive Formation Alpha, make every shot count. The following hours became a blur of gunfire, explosions, and desperate close-quarter combat. The Voratians advanced with machine-like precision, six-limbed humanoids in gleaming armor that seemed to absorb or deflect everything thrown at them. Nadia lost track of how many she killed, how many of her own people fell. The southern approach became a killing field, littered with human and alien bodies alike. When the charges detonated, they took out a Voratian platoon, but the aliens barely paused, simply reforming their lines and continuing forward. By nightfall, they had been pushed back to their final defensive position. The command bunker's reinforced walls were scarred and cracking. Of her original force, barely 20 remained standing. "They're regrouping," Sergeant Ortega reported, his face caked with dirt and dried blood. One arm hung uselessly at his side, the exo-armor there completely shattered. "Looks like they're bringing up something big." Nadia nodded grimly. "How long have we held?" Pascal checked his timepiece. "Just over 10 hours, Captain." 10 hours? The mysterious message had said to hold for 12. 2 more hours of this hell for what? A rescue that would never come, some secret weapon that existed only in desperation-fueled fantasy. "Conserve ammunition," she ordered. "Single shots, confirmed kills only, and," she hesitated, "prepare the civilians for evacuation through the maintenance tunnels." Pascal and Ortega exchanged glances. "The tunnels only lead to the eastern ridge," Ortega said carefully. "Voratians have that area surrounded." "I know," Nadia replied, her voice dropping to a whisper. "But they might get a few through. It's better than waiting here to die." As darkness fell completely, the Voratians changed tactics. Instead of their methodical advance, they launched a coordinated assault from 3 directions simultaneously. Plasma fire lit up the night, melting through defensive barriers and scorching the earth. Nadia fought alongside her troops, moving from position to position, steadying nervous hands, closing the eyes of the fallen. A Voratian breached their line, taller than the others, its armor decorated with what looked horrifyingly like human bones. She emptied her rifle into its faceplate, then used the weapon as a club when ammunition ran out. The creature fell, but 3 more took its place. "Fall back," she screamed over the cacophony. "Secondary positions." Through smoke and chaos, what remained of her force retreated to the bunker itself. 17 soldiers now, most wounded, all exhausted. "Seal the doors," she ordered, helping drag a wounded private inside. "Barricade everything." The reinforced doors slammed shut with a pneumatic hiss. Outside, they could hear the Voratians moving, surrounding them completely now, waiting. Nadia checked her timepiece. 11 hours and 40 minutes since receiving the message. Whatever Fenris was, it had 20 minutes to show itself before the Voratians finished what they'd started. "Captain," Pascal called from the communications station, his voice strange. "You need to see this." She moved to his side, nodding the unusual reading on his monitor. "What am I looking at, Lieutenant?" "Atmospheric disturbance," he explained. "Massive, like something very big entering the upper atmosphere at incredible speed." Nadia felt her heart rate quicken. "Voratian reinforcements." "No," Pascal shook his head, eyes wide. "The signature is human, but unlike anything I've ever seen." Outside, an eerie silence had fallen. The Voratians had stopped their advance. Then came a new sound, a high-pitched whine that quickly grew to a deafening roar. The bunker's small view screen activated automatically. What it showed made Nadia's breath catch in her throat. The night sky was being torn open. Massive black shapes descended through the clouds, ships unlike any in Earth's known arsenal. Sleek, predatory, bristling with weapons that glowed with barely contained energy. "What the hell is that?" Ortega whispered. Before anyone could answer, their communications crackled to life. A deep, authoritative voice filled the bunker. "This is Admiral Castillo of the Earth vessel Nemesis. Fenris Protocol is active. All surviving forces prepare for extraction. We'll handle the rest." As they watched in stunned silence, the lead ship opened fire. Not the conventional weapons of Earth's regular fleet, but beams of concentrated energy that cut through Voratian positions like they were made of paper. Where the beams struck, nothing remained, not bodies, not debris, just scorched earth and silence. "Fenris," Nadia breathed, understanding dawning, Earth's secret weapon. The contingency plan no one spoke about. The desperate gamble that just might save them all. The extraction never came. Not for Captain Nadia Reeves and what remained of her unit. 3 hours after the arrival of the mysterious Fenris ships, communication went dark. The bunker's view screens showed a chaotic battle raging in orbit, the massive Earth vessels trading devastating blows with a newly arrived Voratian fleet. Flashes of light punctuated the night sky as ships on both sides disintegrated into cosmic dust. Then silence. The Fenris ships withdrew, pursued by Voratian cruisers, the promised extraction forgotten in the heat of a greater battle. "So much for our salvation," Lieutenant Pascal muttered, slumping against the communications console. Dried blood crusted the side of his face from a shrapnel wound. Nadia's expression remained stone cold as she surveyed what was left of her team. 13 soldiers, most wounded, all exhausted, their ammunition nearly depleted. The civilian colonists huddled in the rear section, hope briefly kindled then cruelly extinguished. "They'll be back for us," she said, though uncertainty crept into her voice. "For now, we adapt. Sergeant Ortega, what's our supply situation?" Ortega consulted his datapad. 3 days of rations if we stretch them, medical supplies critically low. 2 functioning pulse rifles with about 20 charges each, 4 sidearms, some explosives. "And the Voratians. They took heavy losses during the Fenris attack," Pascal reported. "But they're regrouping. Our sensors show at least 300 ground troops still operational, plus their command vehicles. They've pulled back to establish a perimeter around the settlement." Nadia nodded slowly, her mind calculating possibilities. The colonial settlement of Bastion Point stretched for several kilometers, a mix of prefabricated buildings, terraforming stations, and agricultural domes. Now most of it lay in ruins, but ruins meant cover. Opportunities. "We can't win in a direct confrontation," she stated flatly, "but we're not beaten yet." "What exactly are you suggesting, Captain?" Ortega asked, his one good arm adjusting the makeshift sling that held his injured limb. Nadia moved to the tactical display, studying the layout of the destroyed settlement. "The Voratians think we're neutralized, waiting to die in this bunker. They don't expect us to be a threat anymore. We use that." "Guerrilla tactics," Pascal said, understanding dawning in his eyes. "Exactly, we split into 3 teams. Mobile, stealthy. We target their patrols, communications equipment, fuel reserves, we become ghosts." Private Juno Tours, their tech specialist, looked up from where she was trying to repair a damaged combat scanner. "With all due respect, Captain, we're soldiers, not saboteurs." "Now we're both," Nadia replied firmly. She pulled up detailed schematics of the settlement on the display. "There's a network of maintenance tunnels and drainage systems running beneath the entire colony. The Voratians don't know about them, they're not on any public maps. Those tunnels could get us anywhere in the settlement undetected," Ortega said, a glimmer of hope returning to his weary face. Nadia nodded. "Tours, you and Pascal take 4 others. Focus on disrupting their communications. Ortega, you lead a team to target their supply chains. I'll take the rest and focus on direct strikes against patrols." "And the civilians?" Pascal asked quietly. "The bunker remains their safest option for now. We'll leave 2 soldiers to guard them." For the first time since the invasion began, Nadia saw something like determination return to her soldiers' faces. Not hope, they were too realistic for that, but purpose. A way forward that wasn't just waiting to die. They spent the remainder of the night preparing. Maps were memorized, makeshift weapons crafted from the debris of battle. Scavenged Voratian technology was repurposed where possible. Just before dawn, Nadia gathered her splintered command one last time. "We have one advantage," she told them. "The Voratians don't understand humans. They see us as inferior, primitive. They expect us to surrender or die. They don't expect us to adapt." She met each of their eyes in turn. "We move in 15 minutes. Rendezvous points are programmed into your tactical bands. If you're compromised, protocol is to go dark for 24 hours before attempting contact." "And if the Fenris ships return?" Tours asked. "Then we make sure there are still humans left to rescue," Nadia replied simply. The tunnel access in the bunker's storage area had been designed as an emergency escape route. Now it became their gateway to a new kind of war. One by one, Nadia's teams slipped into the darkness, armed with determination and desperate creativity. Her own team consisted of 3 soldiers: Private Weiss Harding, a former colonial security officer with intimate knowledge of the settlement's layout; Corporal Jin Matsuo, their best marksman despite missing 2 fingers on his left hand; and Specialist Devin Rodriguez, a combat engineer who had rigged their remaining explosives into smaller, more tactical packages. They moved through the tunnels in silence, the only sound their controlled breathing and the occasional drip of condensation from overhead pipes. The air was thick with the smell of dust and recycled oxygen. After 40 minutes of careful navigation, they reached an access point near what had once been the colony's central marketplace. "Status," Nadia whispered into her comm unit. "Team 2 in position," came Pascal's quiet response. "Eastern Communication Hub located, 3 guards." "Team 3 at the supply depot," Ortega reported. "Heavy presence, proceeding with caution." Nadia signaled to Harding, who carefully lifted the access hatch a few centimeters. Through the narrow opening, they could see what remained of the marketplace, now a staging area for Voratian troops. Crawler vehicles were parked in neat rows. Soldiers moved with mechanical precision between them, their six-limbed forms alien and unsettling in the pale morning light. "Count?" Nadia asked. 28 visible, Matsuo replied, peering through a compact scope. 4 officers by their markings, 3 drones patrolling the perimeter. Nadia considered their options. A direct attack would be suicide, but this gathering represented a significant target. She noticed fuel lines running between the parked crawlers. "Rodriguez, can you rig something that would ignite those fuel connections?" The engineer studied the scene carefully. "Yes, but we'd need to place it directly. Remote detonation would be unreliable with all the interference from their equipment." "Which means someone stays behind to trigger it," Nadia concluded. She made the decision instantly. "I'll do it. The rest of you head to the secondary rendezvous point and link up with Team 2. Predictably, they protested. Equally predictably, she overruled them. Captain Nadia Reeves had not survived 15 years of military service by delegating the most dangerous tasks. They waited until a patrol passed, then slipped from the access hatch into the shadow of a collapsed building. Rodriguez quickly assembled his device, a compact fusion of human explosives and repurposed Voratian power cells. The combination was untested but theoretically devastating. "Timer's unreliable," he whispered as he handed it to Nadia. "Manual trigger is your safest bet, 30-second delay max." Nadia nodded, securing the device inside her tattered combat vest. "Go, I'll meet you at the rendezvous in 2 hours." She watched her team disappear into the rubble before turning her attention back to the Voratian staging area. Patience had never been her strongest virtue, but war had taught her its value. She observed the patrol patterns, noting the gaps in coverage, the rhythm of movement. 20 minutes later, her opportunity came. A supply transport arrived, drawing the attention of the guards. Nadia moved like a shadow across the open ground, staying low, using debris as cover. She reached the nearest crawler, slipped beneath it, and began attaching Rodriguez's device to the fuel distribution node. The mechanical precision of the Voratians worked in her favor. They checked obvious approaches, maintained strict patrol routes, but lacked the human instinct for unpredictability. They didn't expect someone to crawl beneath their war machines. Device planted, Nadia began her extraction. She had almost reached the cover of the ruined buildings when a drone spotted her, a hovering sphere with multiple sensor arrays that emitted a shrill alarm. No time for stealth now. Nadia sprinted across the exposed ground as plasma fire erupted around her. She dove behind a collapsed wall, pulled the detonator from her pocket, and pressed the trigger. The resulting explosion far exceeded Rodriguez's estimates. The initial blast ignited the fuel lines, which set off a chain reaction through the parked vehicles. Secondary explosions rocked the staging area, sending pieces of Voratian technology and soldiers flying in all directions. A shockwave of heat and pressure rolled over Nadia's position, nearly collapsing her makeshift shelter. When the dust settled, the marketplace had been transformed into a crater of twisted metal and smoldering ruins. Voratian reinforcements would come soon, but for now, chaos reigned. Nadia didn't wait to admire her handiwork. She slipped into a drainage channel and began making her way toward the rendezvous point, the sounds of confusion and alien distress calls fatting behind her. Her tactical band vibrated with an incoming message. "Impressive work, Captain," came Pascal's voice. "Their Eastern Communications array just diverted all resources to the marketplace. We're proceeding with our objective." A grim smile crossed Nadia's dirt-streaked face. This was only the beginning. Over the following days, the remnants of the 103rd Battalion became the ghosts of Bastion Point. They struck from shadows, disappeared into tunnels, and left destruction in their wake. Voratian patrols vanished. Supply dumps exploded in the night. Communication relays failed mysteriously. The aliens responded with increasing brutality, razing entire sections of the ruined colony in frustrated attempts to flush out the human resistance. But you cannot burn shadows or shoot at ghosts. 7 days after their first strike, Nadia's team gathered in an abandoned water reclamation facility deep beneath the colony's surface. Their numbers had dwindled further. Pascal had lost 2 soldiers in an ambush, and Rodriguez had been severely wounded during a demolition operation. The Voratians are bringing in reinforcements, Torres reported, showing intercepted transmission data on her salvage datapad. 3 transport ships landed last night. They're setting up some kind of energy weapon on the northern ridge. They're getting desperate, Ortega observed, committing more resources to what should have been a simple cleanup operation. Nadia studied the data. Despite their successes, reality remained stark. They were 13 soldiers, now 10, against an enemy that could simply keep sending more forces. Their supplies were nearly exhausted. No rescue had appeared. "We need to adjust our strategy," she said finally. "We've been focusing on harassment, but we need intelligence, something we can use to strike a decisive blow." "Like what?" Harding asked, bandaging a plasma burn on his forearm. "Their command structure. Every Voratian operation we've observed has been coordinated through central authority. If we can identify and eliminate their field commander, we might buy ourselves weeks of confusion." Pascal looked skeptical. "That's assuming they operate like humans. For all we know, they function on some kind of hive mind." "No," Torres interjected. "The communications I've intercepted suggest a clear hierarchy. Orders flow from a single source, what they call the first claw. I think Captain Reeves is right." Nadia leaned forward. "Can you locate this first claw?" Torres nodded hesitantly. "Maybe. Their transmissions originate from somewhere in the administrative district. That's their most heavily guarded area now." "Then that's our target," Nadia decided. "We gather intel, identify the command post, and eliminate their leadership." What she didn't say, what everyone understood, was that this would likely be their final operation. Their resources were too limited, their strength too depleted for anything beyond one last decisive strike. As they dispersed to prepare, Matsuo approached Nadia privately. "Captain," he said quietly, "the civilians in the bunker, they won't last much longer without supplies." Nadia's expression darkened. She had made the difficult decision days ago to prioritize combat operations over civilian support, knowing it meant potential starvation for those they'd left behind. "After we hit the command post," she promised, "we'll get supplies to them or die trying." Matsuo nodded, accepting the brutal calculus of their situation. That night, as Nadia reviewed their attack plans, her tactical band detected an unusual signal, faint, but definitely using Earth military encryption protocols. She isolated the frequency, enhanced the signal, and listened intently. "The survivors of Bastion Point, Fenris Protocol Phase 2, extraction imminent, coordinates to follow." Hope, that most dangerous of emotions, flickered in Nadia's chest. She tamped it down, wary of deception or wishful thinking. But as she continued monitoring, the transmission became clearer. Earth forces were returning, not just the mysterious Fenris ships, but something new. The coordinates indicated a landing zone 10 kilometers outside the colony, a natural depression that would provide cover from Voratian sensors. The extraction window would open in 36 hours. 36 hours, just enough time for one final, desperate mission. Nadia gathered her team again, sharing the news with caution rather than celebration. "If this is legitimate," she told them, "then our mission becomes even more critical. We need to disrupt Voratian command long enough to allow for a safe extraction." "And if it's not legitimate?" Ortega asked, the question on everyone's mind. Nadia's gaze was steady. "Then we die as we've lived these past days, fighting." In the shadows of the ruined colony, 10 exhausted soldiers prepared for what might be humanity's last stand on Bastion Point. Above them, in the blood-red sky, the first signs of a new battle were beginning to appear, flashes of light as unknown ships engaged the Voratian blockade. Whether rescue or ruse, the final chapter of Bastion Point was about to be written. Dawn broke over Bastion Point's eastern ridge with an unnatural stillness. No birds sang in this decimated landscape. All native wildlife had fled or perished in the initial bombardment. The only sounds were the distant hum of Voratian machinery and the occasional crackle of burning wreckage. Captain Nadia Reeves watched the crimson sunrise from her vantage point in an abandoned atmospheric processor. Through tactical binoculars, she observed the Voratian Command Center, a repurposed colonial administration building now surrounded by energy barriers and sentry posts. "Anything," Lieutenant Pascal's voice came through her earpiece. "Heavy security," she responded quietly. "At least 30 guards on visible rotation, 3 access points all fortified." The intel from Tors had proven accurate. After days of intercepting and decrypting Voratian communications, they'd pinpointed the location of the First Claw, the alien commander coordinating the occupation of Bastion Point. If they could eliminate this leader, the resulting confusion might create the window they needed for extraction. If the extraction was real. 24 hours had passed since the mysterious transmission. 12 hours remained until the promised rescue attempt. Nadia had split her remaining forces, Ortega leading a team to prepare the extraction point while she took Pascal, Matsuo, and Tors for the strike against Voratian Command. "Tors' status on their security grid?" Nadia asked. The tech specialist was hunched over a cobbled-together console, her fingers dancing across salvaged components. Half Voratian tech, half human, the device represented their desperate ingenuity. "I've identified a pattern in their shield modulation," Tors replied. "There's a 3-second vulnerability every 17 minutes when they cycle the power cells. If we time it perfectly, we can slip through." "And if we don't?" Pascal asked grimly. "Then we get vaporized," Tors admitted with a shrug. Nadia checked the charge on her weapons. A human pulse rifle with just 15 shots remaining and a Voratian plasma pistol they'd stripped from a dead patrol. The alien weapon felt unnaturally heavy, its grip designed for 6-fingered hands rather than human ones. "We move in 30 minutes, she decided. "One shot at this. We breach during the shield cycle, locate the First Claw, eliminate the target, and extract through the maintenance tunnels." "And if the First Claw isn't there?" Matsuo questioned. "Then we take out their communication array instead," Nadia replied. "Either way, we create chaos." They spent the remaining time memorizing the approach, checking equipment, and preparing for likely scenarios. None of them voiced the obvious, that their chances of success were minimal at best. That wasn't what soldiers did before a mission. They focused on the objective, not the odds. When the time came, they moved silently through the ruins, using the debris of humanity's former colony as cover. The morning light cast long shadows that aided their approach. Tors led, her eyes fixed on a handheld scanner counting down to the shield cycle. 30 seconds, she whispered as they crouched behind a toppled transport vehicle, just 50 meters from the nearest shield barrier. Nadia felt the familiar cocktail of chemicals flooding her system: adrenaline, cortisol, the body's natural preparation for combat. Her heartbeat slowed rather than quickened, a veteran's response honed through years of frontline service. 15 seconds, Tors continued, 10-5. "Go," Nadia commanded. They sprinted for the barrier, 4 human soldiers against an alien fortress. The translucent energy field flickered once, twice, then momentarily vanished. They crossed the threshold just as it rematerialized behind them with an electrical hiss. Inside the perimeter, they pressed against the building's exterior wall. No alarms sounded. The Voratian guards continued their mechanical patrol patterns, unaware of the infiltration. Tors consulted her scanner. Service entrance 20 meters east, less guarded. They moved in staggered formation, weapons ready. Reaching the entrance, Matsuo took position to cover while Pascal rigged a distraction device, a small explosive timed to detonate on the opposite side of the compound. "Ready," Pascal whispered. Nadia nodded. The detonation was barely audible, but the effect immediate. Several guards abandoned their posts, moving to investigate. Tors worked quickly on the door panel, bypassing alien security protocols with improvised tech. "We have access," she announced as the door slid open. Inside, the Colonial Administration building had been transformed. Voratian technology covered the walls and ceiling, poolsing organic-looking components integrated with mechanical systems. The air felt different too, hotter, drier, with an acrid undertone that burned the lungs. "Life signs?" Nadia asked, scanning the corridor. Tors consulted her device. Multiple signatures 2 levels up. One reading is significantly different from the others. Larger mass, unusual energy pattern. "The First Claw," Pascal concluded. They encountered their first resistance at the central stairwell, two Voratian sentries who barely had time to register the human presence before Matsuo silenced them with precision shots. Nadia caught one of the falling aliens, dragging its body into a side room to delay discovery. The upper level proved more challenging. Four guards protected the entrance to what had once been the colony administrator's office. No way to approach unseen. Diversion, Pascal suggested. Nadia considered their options, then reached for the Voratian plasma pistol. Different approach. Tors, can you send a false alarm to another sector? The tech specialist nodded, quickly manipulating her device. Moments later, alarms blared from the far side of the building. Two guards immediately departed, leaving just two at the doorway. Now, Nadia ordered. They emerged from cover, firing simultaneously. The Voratian guards fell before they could return fire. Tors rushed forward to hack the door controls while Pascal and Matsuo secured the perimeter. Captain, Tors called, her voice tight with urgency. I'm picking up unusual energy readings inside. Whatever's in there, it's not just their commander. Before Nadia could respond, the door slid open of its own accord. Inside, the colonial administrator's office had been transformed into something alien and unsettling. The walls pulsed with biomechanical components. Holographic displays hovered in the air, showing tactical overlays of the entire region. And in the center stood the first claw. The Voratian commander towered over them, nearly 3 meters tall, its exoskeleton gleaming with embedded technology. Unlike the common soldiers, it possessed 8 limbs rather than 6, each ending in manipulators that looked capable of crushing human bone with minimal effort. Its head was elongated, housing 4 compound eyes that swiveled independently to track their entrance. Most disturbing was the collection of objects displayed around it, human artifacts arranged like trophies. Helmets, weapon fragments, even what appeared to be preserved body parts. Expected, the creature said in perfect, unaccented English. Its voice emanated not from any visible mouth but from a translator device embedded in its chest. Humans, always the final, desperate gesture. Nadia raised her weapon but hesitated. Something was wrong. The first claw had been waiting for them. This wasn't an ambush, it was a trap. Your resistance has been instructive, the alien continued, making no move to attack or call for guards. Most species surrender when defeat is mathematically certain. Humans persist beyond reason. We're stubborn that way, Nadia replied, fingers still on the trigger. Why are you talking instead of fighting? The compound eyes rotated, focusing entirely on her. Analysis, understanding, your species represents an anomaly in our conquest database. We must understand before we complete the extinction process. Tors gasped softly beside her. Captain, we need to move. Now, energy readings are spiking throughout the building. The first claw's upper limbs made a gesture that might have been amusement. Your extraction plan was intercepted days ago. Your rescue ships will find only debris. Your resistance ends here, as a footnote in the Voratian archive. Nadia didn't waste time on further dialogue. She fired, emptying her weapon's charge into the alien commander. The plasma bolt struck an invisible barrier centimeters from the creature's body, dissipating harmlessly. Predictable, it said. The floor beneath them suddenly glowed red-hot. Pain shot through Nadia's boots as some kind of energy field activated. Beside her, Pascal dropped to one knee, crying out. Only Tor seemed unaffected, protected by the insulated suit she wore while working with electrical systems. Tor's the console, Nadia shouted through gritted teeth, pointing to the alien command interface. The tech specialist lunged for the controls as Matsuo fired his remaining ammunition at the barrier protecting the first claw. The alien commander made no move to stop them, observing with clinical detachment. Fascinating, it commented, pain response overridden by tactical priority, noted. Tors reached the console, hands flying over the alien interface. Whatever she did caused an immediate reaction. The energy field beneath them deactivated, and alarms began blaring throughout the facility. What did you do? Pascal gasped, climbing back to his feet. Overloaded their communication array, Tors replied with grim satisfaction, and found something else. Captain, they've been transmitting data about us, about human combat tactics to their fleet. This wasn't just an occupation, it was a study. The first claw's posture shifted, the first sign of genuine concern. Interference unacceptable, terminal protocols activated. The building shuddered around them. On the holographic displays, red warning symbols multiplied. They're triggering a self-destruct, Torres realized. The whole command center. Extraction route, Nadia ordered, already moving toward the door. Double time. They fled the office, leaving the first claw still standing amid its trophies and displays. The Voratian commander made no attempt to pursue, seemingly content to die with its command center. The journey out became a desperate race against time. Voratian soldiers ran in all directions, some attempting to evacuate, others maintaining discipline despite the chaos. Nadia's team fought their way down to the ground level, weapons nearly depleted. Just as they reached the outer perimeter, the first explosions began. The command center's destruction was methodical. Not a single massive detonation, but a series of controlled demolitions designed to eliminate all evidence of their presence. "Shield still active," Torres shouted as they approached the energy barrier that had earlier allowed their entry. "Next cycle," Nadia demanded. Torres checked her device, 3 minutes. "Too long," Pascal responded, pointing to the collapsing building behind them. Nadia scanned the perimeter desperately. The shield generators were visible now, cylindrical devices positioned at intervals around the compound. One stood just 20 meters away, guarded by a single distracted Voratian. "Matsuo," she said simply. The marksman understood immediately. He took aim with his last power cell and fired. The shot caught the alien just below its sensory cluster, dropping it instantly. "Cover me," Nadia ordered, then sprinted for the generator. She had no technical knowledge of Voratian shield technology, but she understood universal principles of demolition. Finding the power coupling was intuitive. Overloading it required only the removal of regulatory components. She worked quickly, ignoring the chaos around her, focusing entirely on the task. The generator began to whine, a high-pitched sound that cut through the cacophony of alarms and explosions. Nadia ran back to her team just as a section of the energy shield flickered and died. "Now," she shouted. They bolted through the gap seconds before the generator detonated, taking out 2 adjacent sections of the shield in a cascade of electrical discharges. Behind them, the Voratian command center collapsed in on itself, a precise implosion that left nothing but a smoking crater. "Did we kill it?" Pascal asked as they took cover in the ruins beyond the compound. "Unknown," Nadia replied tersely, "but we've accomplished the mission objective. Their command structure is compromised." Torres checked her timepiece. 7 hours until the extraction window. "Then we move to the rendezvous," Nadia decided. Ortega's team should have the landing zone prepared by now. They traveled cautiously through the decimated colony, avoiding Voratian patrols that now moved with noticeably less coordination. Without their command center, the aliens had reverted to pre-programmed protocols, effective but inflexible. 4 hours later, they reached the extraction coordinates, a natural depression 10 kilometers from the main settlement. Sergeant Ortega had positioned his team strategically around the perimeter. "Captain," he greeted Nadia with obvious relief, "beginning to think you weren't going to make it." "Nearly didn't," she admitted. "Status here, quiet so far. We've set proximity alerts in case the Voratians track us. The civilian group is sheltered in that cave system." He pointed to a rocky outcropping. "We managed to bring 23 of them, the rest." He didn't need to finish the sentence. Nadia nodded grimly, more deaths on her conscience, more names to remember in quiet moments if she survived this hell. "Any communication from our extraction team?" she asked. "Nothing definitive," Ortega replied. "Some unusual activity in high orbit. The Voratian blockade seems to be repositioning." As if in response to his words, the sky above them suddenly lit up with distant flashes, the unmistakable signature of capital ship weapons fire. A battle had begun in orbit. "Could be our window opening," Pascal suggested, gazing upward. They watched as the orbital battle intensified. Even from the ground, they could make out the silhouettes of massive ships exchanging devastating volleys. Several Voratian vessels broke formation, attempting to retreat from something unseen. Then a new sound, the distinctive roar of atmospheric entry, multiple objects burning through the cloud layer at tremendous speed. "Incoming," Matsuo called, readying his depleted weapon. The objects resolved into ships, sleek, angular craft unlike anything in Earth's standard military. They descended in perfect formation, thrusters flaring as they decelerated over the extraction point. The lead vessel touched down first, landing gear absorbing the impact with sophisticated dampening technology. Its hull bore no traditional Earth military markings, only a stylized wolf's head insignia and the designation FENRIS Actual. For several tense moments, nothing happened. Nadia's team maintained defensive positions, weapons trained on the mysterious craft. Then, with a pneumatic hiss, a hatch opened in the ship's ventral section. A boarding ramp extended to the ground. Two figures emerged, soldiers in advanced combat armor unlike any Nadia had seen before. The suits were matte black with subtle blue energy lines tracing anatomical patterns. Their helmets completely obscured their faces, presenting only a reflective surface that shifted colors slightly as they moved. The taller of the two approached directly, moving with unnatural fluidity. When they reached speaking distance, the helmet retracted, folding seamlessly into the collar of the armor to reveal a woman's face, severe, augmented with subtle cybernetic implants around the eyes and temples. "Captain Nadia Reeves?" she asked, her voice carrying an odd harmonic quality. Nadia stepped forward. "Identify yourself." "Commander Valeria Wolf, Fenris Initiative, we're your extraction." The woman's eyes, partially mechanical, scanned the survivors with calculating efficiency. Fewer than expected, the Voratians have been thorough. "What is Fenris?" Nadia demanded. "I've never heard of any initiative under that designation." Commander Wolf's expression remained neutral. "Classified under Directive Zero, Earth's final contingency, we are what happens when conventional warfare fails." She gestured to the ships behind her. "We have 20 minutes before Voratian reinforcements arrive. Anyone who wants to live should board now." Nadia hesitated, decades of military protocol warring with immediate survival needs. "My people go first, civilians priority." Wolf nodded once. "Of course, Captain." She tapped a control on her forearm. "All units begin evacuation procedures. Medical teams stand by for incoming wounded." The remaining ships landed, hatches opening to reveal more soldiers in the same advanced armor. They moved with precision to secure the perimeter while medical personnel, distinguishable by red markings on their suits, emerged with stretchers and equipment. As the evacuation began, Nadia kept her attention on Commander Wolf. "You left us," she said quietly, accusation clear in her tone. "Your ships appeared days ago, then abandoned us." "Tactical necessity," Wolf replied without apology. "The first engagement was reconnaissance. We needed to assess Voratian capabilities before committing our full force." Her augmented eyes focused on Nadia's face. "Your resistance provided valuable data. It convinced command that this colony was worth the resources to recover." "Worth the resources?" Nadia stepped closer, anger finally breaking through her military discipline. "People died waiting for your return. Good soldiers, civilians, children." Wolf didn't flinch. "Yes, and billions more will live because of what we've learned here." She glanced skyward. "The Voratians have dominated every species they've encountered, except humans. You've shown them something they don't understand, defeat on a battlefield they thought secured. That makes you dangerous to them." Before Nadia could respond, Tors approached urgently. "Captain, Voratian signatures approaching from the east, multiple crawlers." Wolf checked her tactical display. "As expected, time to leave, Captain Reeves." She turned and started walking back to her ship. "Wait," Nadia called after her. "What happens now to my people, to this colony?" The Fenris commander paused, looking back over her shoulder. "Your personnel will be debriefed, treated, and offered integration into our program if qualified. As for Bastion Point," her expression hardened, "nothing here can remain. Protocol demands complete sanitization." "You're going to destroy the entire colony," Nadia realized. "The Voratians cannot be allowed to retain any data on human tactics or biology. The next battlefield will be of our choosing, not theirs." Wolf's tone softened marginally. "I understand this is difficult, Captain, but the war has changed. Conventional conflicts are over. What comes next requires different soldiers." In the distance, the first Voratian crawler crested the ridge, its weapons systems charging. The Fenris soldiers responded with impossible coordination, targeting systems locking on simultaneously. "Final call," Captain Wolf said, "with us or with the dead." Nadia looked back at her surviving team, soldiers who had fought beyond all reasonable expectation, who deserved whatever future remained. Then to the civilians huddled near the transports, eyes wide with desperate hope. Her decision was already made. As she boarded the Fenris vessel with the last of her people, Nadia felt the ground shake beneath them. Orbital bombardment had begun, precision strikes from the Fenris fleet targeting every trace of human and Voratian presence on Bastion Point. Through a viewport, she watched her battlefield disappear in flashes of light. Not just defeat being erased, but victory as well. All evidence that humans had stood against impossible odds and somehow survived. The ship lifted smoothly into the atmosphere. Around her, medical teams worked on the wounded while other Fenris personnel debriefed her soldiers. No one spoke to her directly. She was left alone with her thoughts as they ascended toward the waiting fleet. Commander Wolf appeared beside her, observing the destruction below with clinical detachment. "You're wondering if it was worth it," she said, not looking at Nadia. "All the sacrifice just to abandon the colony in the end." "Wouldn't you?" Nadia replied. "Once," Wolf admitted, "before the augmentations, before I understood what we're really fighting for." She turned to face Nadia fully. "This isn't about colonies or resources or even survival, Captain. It's about evolution. Either humanity evolves to meet this threat or we perish. There is no middle ground." "Evolution," Nadia repeated, looking at the subtle implants around Wolf's eyes. "Is that what happened to you?" "Enhancement," Wolf corrected. "The next step, what Fenris represents." She gestured to a sealed door at the end of the compartment. "Would you like to see?" Curiosity overcame caution. Nadia followed the commander through the door into what appeared to be a medical bay unlike any she'd encountered. Soldiers, if they could still be called that, lay in advanced medical pods, their bodies undergoing procedures that defied conventional understanding. Some had limbs completely replaced with synthetic alternatives. Others received implants directly into their cerebral cortex. All were awake, eyes focused on data streams projected directly into their field of vision. "This is the awakening protocol," Wolf explained. "The transformation of conventional soldiers into Fenris operatives. Enhanced strength, reflexes, sensory processing, direct neural interfaces with weapon systems, emotional regulation implants." "You're turning them into machines," Nadia said, unable to keep the horror from her voice. "We're evolving them beyond human limitations," Wolf countered. "Creating soldiers capable of defeating an enemy that has conquered galaxies. The Voratians aren't just invaders, Captain, they're exterminators. They've eliminated 17 sentient species before encountering humanity." Nadia watched as a technician installed something directly into a soldier's spine, a procedure that should have been agonizing, yet the recipient showed no sign of discomfort. "Why show me this?" she asked. "Because you've earned the choice," Wolf replied. "You and your team have demonstrated exceptional resilience and tactical adaptation, qualities valuable to the Fenris Initiative. You could join us, become something greater." Nadia studied the commander's face, searching for humanity beneath the augmentation. "At what cost?" "Everything," Wolf acknowledged without hesitation. "Your past, your limitations, perhaps parts of what you consider your humanity, but in exchange you gain the power to ensure Earth's survival." Outside the viewport, Bastion Point was now just a series of impact craters, all evidence of the colony's existence systematically eradicated. A clean slate in a war that had suddenly revealed itself to be far more complex than Nadia had understood. "I need time," she said finally. "My people deserve to know their options." "Of course," Wolf agreed. "But understand this, Captain Reeves, the war you've been fighting is over. What comes next isn't about holding ground or defending colonies. It's about becoming something the Voratians have never encountered before." "And what's that?" Nadia asked. Commander Wolf's augmented eyes gleamed with cold certainty. "Their extinction event." As the Fenris fleet accelerated away from the ruined colony, Nadia felt herself standing at the threshold of humanity's darkest and perhaps final evolution. The battle for Bastion Point was over, but the true war, one that would transform both victor and vanquished, had only just begun. The Fenris carrier sliced through space like a predator, its black hull absorbing rather than reflecting the distant starlight. Within its armored depths, Captain Nadia Reeves stood before a viewport, watching the stars blur as the ship accelerated beyond conventional propulsion limits. Earth's regular military vessels couldn't achieve even half this speed. 23 days had passed since the evacuation from Bastion Point. 23 days of medical treatments, debriefings, and increasingly disturbing revelations about the true nature of the war against the Voratians. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Commander Wolf's voice came from behind her. The Fenris leader moved with unnatural silence, another gift of her extensive augmentations. The void, Nadia asked without turning. The future, Wolf corrected, stepping alongside her. We're approaching the rendezvous coordinates. The full Fenris fleet awaits. Nadia had spent these weeks observing the Fenris initiative from the inside. While her surviving soldiers recovered in advanced medical pods, she had been granted limited access to the carrier's operations. A calculated move by Wolf to entice her toward accepting augmentation. What she'd seen both impressed and disturbed her. The Fenris operatives functioned with machine-like efficiency, their bodies and minds enhanced beyond human norms. Neural implants allowed them to communicate silently, share sensory data, and interface directly with their weapons and ships. Their emotional responses were calibrated for optimal performance, fear dampened, aggression precisely controlled, pain almost entirely suppressed. They were effective, terrifyingly so, but were they still human? Your team's recovery is progressing well, Wolf noted. Lieutenant Pascal's spinal reconstruction is complete. Corporal Matsuo's new hand offers functionality superior to his original. Sergeant Ortega's internal injuries are fully repaired. And the civilians? Nadia asked, finally turning to face the commander. Wolf's expression remained neutral, processed according to protocol. Those with valuable skills have been integrated into support roles. The others will be relocated to secure colonies once we reach Earth space. Processed, Nadia repeated, nodding the clinical terminology. Another sign of the distance between Fenris operatives and conventional humanity. The ship's lighting shifted slightly, a subtle alert that Nadia had learned to recognize. Wolf straightened, her augmented eyes flickering as she received information through her neural interface. We've arrived, she announced. The Admiral requests your presence on the command deck for the approach. The command deck of the Fenris carrier bore little resemblance to traditional military vessels. No bustling crew at individual stations, no shouted orders or status reports. Instead, a dozen operatives sat in reclined positions, eyes closed, connected directly to the ship's systems through cranial interfaces. The room was nearly silent except for the soft hum of advanced technology. At the center stood Admiral Castillo, the same voice that had promised extraction during the Battle of Bastion Point. Unlike Wolf, whose augmentations were relatively subtle, the Admiral's modifications were extensive and visible. His right arm was entirely synthetic, gleaming with the same matte black material as their combat armor. One eye had been replaced with an advanced optical array that glowed faintly blue. When he spoke, his voice carried harmonics impossible for a natural human larynx. Captain Reeves, he acknowledged her, welcome to Fenris Actual. The main viewscreen activated, revealing what waited beyond their ship. Nadia's breath caught in her throat. A fleet unlike anything in Earth's known arsenal filled the space before them. Dozens of carriers similar to their own. Hundreds of smaller craft in formations that seemed to shift and adapt like living organisms. At the center, a vessel of such massive proportions that it defied conventional engineering, easily 5 times the size of Earth's largest dreadnought. The Fenris Armada, Admiral Castillo announced with quiet pride. Humanity's answer to extinction. How? Nadia asked, unable to hide her astonishment. Earth doesn't have the resources or technology for this. Conventional Earth doesn't, Castillo corrected. Fenris has operated beyond standard protocols for nearly a decade. Our research division made breakthroughs in propulsion, weapon systems, and human enhancement that were deemed too extreme for public implementation. Too extreme, Nadia repeated, understanding dawning. You mean unethical. The Admiral's expression remained unchanged. Ethics are a luxury of peacetime, Captain. The Voratians don't concern themselves with the morality of survival. The viewscreen shifted, now displaying tactical data. Red markers indicated known Voratian positions throughout nearby systems. A massive concentration pulsed ominously at one location. Their staging area, Castillo explained. The launch point for their next major offensive against Earth's colonies. Our intelligence suggests they're gathering their largest fleet yet, nearly 3,000 vessels. Nadia studied the display, military training, automatically assessing strategic implications. They're preparing for a decisive strike. Precisely, having tested our conventional defenses and found them wanting, they now commit to full conquest. The Admiral's augmented eye focused on her face. But they've miscalculated. They've only encountered our regular military, not Fenris. And now you're planning a counterattack, Nadia concluded. Not a counterattack, Captain, a hunt. Castillo gestured, and the view screen changed again, displaying a complex battle plan. Operation Retribution, the first phase in our strategy to push the Voratians back to their core systems and neutralize their invasion capability permanently. The plan was audacious, utilizing technologies and tactics beyond anything in standard military doctrine. The Fenris fleet would strike from multiple vectors simultaneously, employing stealth systems to penetrate deep into Voratian-controlled space before revealing themselves. Your timing is fortuitous, the Admiral continued. We launch in 36 hours, which means you must make your decision now. Nadia tensed. What decision? Whether to join us as you are limited, vulnerable, conventional, or to embrace the Fenris Protocol and become what humanity needs to survive this war. Commander Wolf stepped forward. Your combat experience against the Voratians is invaluable, Captain. Few have engaged them directly and survived. That knowledge, combined with our enhancements, would create an exceptional operative. And my team, Nadia asked. The same opportunity is extended to them, Castillo replied. Those who accept will undergo the awakening protocol immediately. Those who decline will be transferred to a secure facility until the current operation concludes. The implication was clear. This wasn't truly a choice, merely the illusion of one. Nadia would either join Fenris as an augmented operative or be sidelined as a security risk. I need to speak with my people, she said firmly. Castillo nodded once. Of course, you have 6 hours. The medical bay where her surviving team members recovered was more advanced than any facility Nadia had seen in Earth's regular military. Nanite treatments accelerated healing. Synthetic replacements functioned better than original limbs. Pain was controlled so precisely that severely wounded soldiers could engage in conversation as if merely resting after exercise. Lieutenant Pascal sat up as she entered, his recently reconstructed spine allowing movements that would have been impossible with conventional medicine. Beside him, Corporal Matsuo flexed his new synthetic hand, the articulation unnaturally smooth. Sergeant Ortega and the others gathered around as Nadia explained the situation. So that's it, Pascal said when she finished. Become cyborg soldiers or get locked away until the war ends if it ever does. That's the choice they're offering, Nadia confirmed. Tors, who had spent most of her recovery studying the Fenris technology she could access, looked thoughtful. Their tech is decades beyond anything I've seen. The neural interfaces alone could revolutionize human capability. At what cost? Ortega countered. You've seen these Fenris operatives. They've sacrificed their humanity for efficiency. Matsuo raised his synthetic hand, studying its perfect movements. Maybe some sacrifices are necessary. The Voratians would have killed us all at Bastion Point if these enhancements give us a fighting chance. It's not just about fighting chance, Nadia interjected. It's about what we're fighting for. If we win this war by becoming something inhuman, what exactly have we saved? The debate continued among her team, reflecting the core dilemma Nadia herself struggled with, survival at any cost versus preserving what made humanity worth saving. There were no easy answers, no clear moral high ground when extinction loomed as the alternative. In the end, the division among her team mirrored the complexity of the choice. Pascal, Tors, and 4 others opted for enhancement, seeing in the technology a path to both survival and evolution. Ortega, Matsuo, and the remaining 3 chose to remain conventional humans, accepting whatever consequences came with that decision. Nadia herself stood at the crossroads, weighing options that seemed equally impossible. 6 hours later, she returned to the command deck alone. Admiral Castillo and Commander Wolf waited, their augmented eyes studying her with analytical precision. Made my decision, Nadia stated, standing at military attention. I'll join the Fenris initiative. Castillo nodded unsurprised. A wise choice, Captain. With conditions, Nadia continued firmly. The Admiral's expression hardened slightly. Fenris doesn't operate on conditions, Captain Reeves. It does now, Nadia replied evenly. If you want my cooperation, my willing participation, you'll accept what I'm about to propose. Wolf and Castillo exchanged glances, a subtle communication probably accompanied by direct neural exchange. State your terms, Wolf finally said. First, any enhancements I receive will preserve my emotional responses. No dampening, no regulation. I want to feel everything just as I do now. Castillo frowned. That would significantly reduce your combat efficiency. It will preserve my humanity, Nadia countered. Which brings me to my second condition. Those of my team who chose to remain unenhanced will not be sidelined. They'll be integrated into the operation in support roles that utilize their existing skills. Unaugmented personnel are vulnerable in direct combat scenarios, Wolf objected. Then use them where their vulnerability is minimized, Nadia insisted, but they remain part of my command. Is that all? Castillo asked, his tone suggesting he expected the demands to be rejected. One more thing, Nadia said. After this operation, regardless of outcome, the existence of Fenris becomes public knowledge. No more shadow operations, no more experiments without oversight. Humanity deserves to know what's being done in its name. This final demand clearly struck a nerve. Castillo's augmented eye flared brighter and Wolf's posture stiffened. Impossible, the Admiral stated flatly. Fenris operates beyond conventional authority precisely because conventional authority lacks the resolve for necessary action. Then you'll proceed without me, Nadia replied, unintimidated. And I suspect half my team will withdraw as well. You need us more than we need you, Admiral. Our experience fighting Voratians can't be synthesized or downloaded. The tension in the command deck was palpable. For several long moments, neither side spoke. Then, surprisingly, Wolf broke the silence. She's right, the commander said to Castillo. Tactical analysis confirms it. Captain Reeves and her team possess practical combat data against Voratian forces that none of our current operatives can match. Integration of their experience improves our success probability by 23%. Castillo's expression remained severe, but he eventually gave a curt nod. Your conditions are accepted, Captain. With one amendment, Fenris becomes public knowledge after the successful conclusion of Operation Retribution, not before. Agreed, Nadia said, extending her hand in the human gesture of agreement. After a moment's hesitation, the Admiral took it with his synthetic arm. The grip was precisely calibrated, strong enough to communicate resolve, but carefully controlled to avoid injury. Welcome to Fenris, Captain Reeves, he said. Preparation for your enhancement begins immediately. The awakening protocol was nothing like Nadia had imagined. She had expected pain, disorientation, perhaps even moments of regret. Instead, there was remarkable clarity. The medical pod enveloped her completely, its interior illuminated with soft blue light. Nanite-infused fluid supported her body while specialized surgical systems operated with inhuman precision. She remained conscious throughout, another of her conditions, watching as her body was systematically upgraded. Neural pathways enhanced for faster processing. Skeletal structure reinforced with molecular carbon weave. Muscular tissue interlaced with synthetic fibers for improved strength and endurance. Sensory organs augmented for expanded perception ranges. The process should have been excruciating, but advanced pain management systems blocked the worst while still allowing her to feel the transformation, to remain connected to the experience rather than dissociated from it. Most significantly, as promised, her emotional centers remained untouched. Where other Fenris operatives received implants to regulate fear, anger, and empathy, Nadia's brain was enhanced but not fundamentally altered in its emotional architecture. When she emerged 28 hours later, she was recognizably herself but undeniably changed. Her physical capabilities had multiplied exponentially. Her thought processes moved with accelerated clarity. Her senses detected information far beyond normal human ranges. Commander Wolf waited as she stepped from the medical pod, studying her with professional interest. How do you feel, Captain? Nadia took a moment to process the question, to separate the cascade of new sensory information from her emotional response to it. Overwhelmed, she answered honestly, but still myself. Interesting, Wolf noted. Most operatives report a sense of detachment after enhancement, a period of adjustment to their new capabilities. I insisted on keeping my emotional responses intact, Nadia reminded her. The overwhelm is part of remaining human. For now, Wolf said, though without judgment. Your combat armor has been prepared. The operation launches in 4 hours. Your team, both enhanced and conventional, has been briefed on their roles. Nadia followed Wolf through the ship to the armory, where specialized combat suits awaited the Fenris operatives. Unlike conventional military armor, these were designed to interface directly with their augmented bodies, neural connections linking the suit systems to the wearer's enhanced capabilities. As Nadia allowed the armor to encase her, she felt the immediate synergy. The suit didn't just protect, it amplified. Strength enhancers responded to her movements with perfect anticipation. Sensors extended her already augmented perception. Weapons systems interfaced with her neural pathways, allowing targeting through thought rather than physical action. Your modifications to the standard protocol have created something unexpected, Wolf observed as Nadia tested the armor's capabilities. Your combat metrics show unusual patterns, higher adaptability, increased creative response, lower predictability. Human unpredictability with enhanced capability, Nadia said. Exactly what I wanted. Perhaps what we needed, Wolf acknowledged with rare thoughtfulness. The Voratians excel at pattern recognition. Our standard operatives demonstrate remarkable efficiency but follow predictable optimization paths. Your approach creates variables. Before Nadia could respond, her neural interface indicated an incoming fleet-wide communication. Admiral Castillo's voice resonated directly in her mind, a disconcerting experience despite her preparation for it. All Fenris units prepare for deployment. Operation Retribution commences in 3 hours. Primary objective, neutralization of Voratian staging fleet. Secondary objective, capture of Voratian command intelligence. Humanity strikes back today. The message carried embedded tactical data, deployment positions, attack vectors, contingency protocols. Information that would have required hours of briefing now transferred instantly to Nadia's enhanced consciousness. Time to gather your team, Wolf said. Your strike unit deploys from Launch Bay 7. When Nadia arrived at the designated bay, she found both halves of her divided team waiting. Those who had chosen enhancement stood in Fenris combat armor similar to her own, their movements already adapting to their new capabilities. Those who had remained conventional wore specialized tactical gear, advanced by regular military standards but notably different from the neural integrated systems. Lieutenant Pascal, now enhanced, stood with Tors and the others who had made the same choice. Their postures had changed subtly, more economical in movement, more precise in positioning. Sergeant Ortega led the unenhanced contingent, their familiar human mannerisms a stark contrast. Captain, Pascal greeted her, his voice carrying the same harmonic quality that all enhanced personnel developed. Strike Unit Epsilon assembled and ready. Nadia approached, aware of how her own movements had changed, too fluid, too perfect. The enhanced members of her team noticed immediately, their augmented perception detecting the customized nature of her enhancements. Your protocol is different, Tors observed. Yes, Nadia confirmed. I remain fully emotional. My enhancements improve capability without altering fundamental responses. Ortega stepped forward, studying her with cautious hope. You're still you then, not like the others. Still me, Nadia assured him, just more. She addressed the entire team, enhanced and conventional alike. Our mission differs from standard Fenris protocol. While other units focus on direct assault, we'll target Voratian command and control. Intelligence gathering rather than pure destruction. Because we understand how they think, Pascal concluded. Our experience at Bastion Point. Exactly. Nadia activated the tactical display showing their specific target, a Voratian command vessel positioned at the heart of their staging fleet. Enhanced team will breach the vessel here at the auxiliary docking port. Conventional team will provide remote support from our transport, hacking their systems once we're aboard. They'll have learned from Bastion Point, Ortega warned. The same tricks won't work twice. Which is why we're bringing new tricks, Nadia replied. And something they'll never expect, enhanced humans who still think like humans, not like machines. As her team prepared for deployment, Nadia received another direct neural communication, this one specifically from Admiral Castillo. Captain Reeves, your strike unit has been designated a priority mission. The intelligence you retrieve could change the course of this war. Do not fail. She sent no reply, the implicit threat needed no acknowledgement. 2 hours later, Strike Unit Epsilon boarded their designated transport, a stealth vessel designed specifically for infiltration operations. As they departed the Fenris carrier, Nadia observed the full armada deploying for battle, hundreds of ships moving in perfect coordination, their enhanced crews linked in a network of shared consciousness and purpose. All except her team, who maintained their individual perspective, their humanity, even as they utilized their enhanced capabilities. The journey to the Voratian staging area passed intense preparation. Enhanced team members calibrated their neural interfaces and weapon systems. Conventional members finalized hacking protocols and support strategies. Despite their physical differences now, they remained unified in purpose, survival not just of themselves, but of what humanity represented. When they emerged from stealth approach near the Voratian fleet, Operation Retribution was already underway. The vastness of space filled with the silent fury of advanced warfare, energy weapons cutting through Voratian vessels, kinetic projectiles shattering alien armor, nuclear-scale detonations blossoming like deadly flowers against the void.